All right. So we were talking about running, and one of the topics that came up has been that sometimes we notice some people are running and so busy and they don't have time for anything, but then they do spend time on things that are really seemingly less important or sometimes not even right, like from a moral standpoint. So we were thinking about that. And what comes to my mind is the priorities that we set. Because as we discussed last time, sometimes we are running towards or running away from something. So the whole busyness and doing so many things has at times an ego aspect to it, or insecurity to it, or experiences to it that we feel like we have to be perceived busy, we have to be busy, or we just want to be busy because we don't want to deal with certain things. And so when we're looking at that from a perspective of priorities, when we realize that we always have a choice as far as what we put our focus on, what we put our intention on, and that it really comes back down to even a level of what I believe is self-confidence, to say, what are we focusing on? What really is important to us as individuals, whether that is in the professional life or it is in the personal life, and really facing those things. Because here's another thought on that topic, which I thought was so interesting. For the longest time, I feel that when we talked about success or corporate success, it was about, or even business success in general, it was about many materialistic kind of goals. Like, we want to make more money, we want to drive a better car, we want to have another vacation, we want to have, it's like all externally focused type of things. But what about discretionary time? Because again, when you're looking at a perspective of some of the most successful people that seem to have more time, that take the time, that show the respect, they are not running. And so it's a component of that I've been actually, over months, I've been thinking about, like, what does that mean, discretionary time? And being more true of who we are and living a more healthy lifestyle and facing the things that need to be faced. So I think there are a couple of different sides to look at that. And I don't know, Betska or Raj, like, what is your take on that?
Well, to me, it falls into the category, and when I'm coaching leaders, we always start with leading self first. In fact, when we do assessments, it's, how well are you leading yourself first? Because you used a key word, Marion, and that word is respect. It's self-respect, and so sitting down and having a heart-to-heart conversation with yourself. Sometimes you need to have someone else to talk to, right? Like a coach, a consultant, or a therapist, or whoever, right? But really taking a moment to reflect on your life, I don't think we do enough of that, because we might be running away from something, right? So if we're stopping to look at, okay, what is really happening in my life, and what do I really want, and how can I change it? And you know what? We have an obligation to our children. The children are learning, for example, that it's okay to bring their phones to the dinner table and they can be texting their friends. No, phones are off the table, right? There's family time where you're just with the family, not with any electronics, that sort of idea. And really figuring out what matters to you in life, and then making sure you focus on it and get it. Because just one last thing, is that you made a comment off camera, Marion, that people are running towards money. We're always constantly looking for the material support. But then once we get that money, oftentimes people are more relaxed. So that would be something for people to really look at is, well, how much money do I really need? You know, how much money do I need to put away? I know in India, for example, you don't have any, like our people who are over 65, we get a pension, but in India, you don't get that. So, you have all these countries are different. What do we need for our retirement, and how much money do we need for education for our children, and really map something out so that we can feel comfortable with how much money we actually need, but not go running, 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 because that's so debilitating for the human spirit. Sorry,
Yeah,
Marion, go ahead. Mhm.
it's it goes back to like in being intentional. And I think that even from a perspective, I've seen a lot of executives who have already a lot of money. So it's not even really a money conversation.
Mm.
And then how much is ever enough, right? Because
Mm.
we tend as humans always to look at the next executive, the neighbor over here, the whoever we can compare ourselves with, and then maybe they have this more, that more. That's a never winning equation, because there's always going to be somebody that has more. So, which brings me to the point of that cannot be the source and the root of the running necessarily. I mean, I understand the point of, sure, if I'm looking to make ends meet, then yes, maybe I am running and I'm going to multiple jobs, or some people are trying to support themselves and their families. I'm not saying that, but I am noticing that especially people that would have enough money or already more than enough money are still running, which tells me it comes from a different place. And
Yes.
you kind of spoke into that. But I also wanted to say the self-respect that you also so nicely talked about again. And you actually said something off camera there. It's the self-respect when we find ourselves in a meeting with somebody, whether that is at corporate or otherwise, and we are not getting attention from that person. It is the self-respect to say, oh, do you need a moment? I'll wait. Or to say, you seem very busy. I will come back later. Whoever that is, that could be your boss, that could be your coworker, that could be your friend you're going to visit, to have that self-respect to say, I am not taking a quarter of you. I'm not taking a quarter of your attention. I am worthy. I am standing here. I'm sitting here. We are having a conversation. And regardless of what role you're in, whether you are the consultant or the coach or the employee or the boss, it doesn't matter. That self-respect to stand up and give that respect, I think that's a very human that we need to, personally, I believe we need to bring back. And we only gonna be able to bring that back with people standing up and saying, I notice you're busy. I'll come back later. Or let me know when you're ready and we can have a conversation, versus trying to do 10 things at the same time and really acting in what I would call a very disrespectful way, probably not even noticing it.
So, one of the things I've noticed for myself and for my clients, my family members, is that we need to stop the running.
Yeah.
We need to stop it, because it's dramatically be affecting our health, for example.
Right.
And it takes years for our bad behaviors to catch up in our physical body. Someone who's older than you guys, I have really realized that watching. I feel very blessed to have good health, but I tell you what, I see people. They sit there with this tightness in their body all the time, and they don't know how to get rid of it. So to stop the running, could we spend a couple minutes on how to stop the running? I think we've already addressed, well, sit back, communicate with yourself, have an open-hearted conversation. Okay, why am I running? And what do I really want in life? How much money do I really need, instead of, la, la, la. And what's important to me? How much more time do I how valuable would it be for me to spend more time with my kids or my wife or my husband or my mom, dad, whatever, right?
Yeah, I've noticed that, like, sometimes I think people hear that, but then they're like, okay, how do I do that when I am so anxious and when I'm like having
Yeah.
so much on my mind? And even the concept of meditation, when you're new to the
Mhm.
concept of meditation, like I remember before I started meditating, I don't know who it was, Gandhi, I think, who said, I have so many important meetings today, I'm going to have to meditate 3 hours instead of 2. And
Yeah.
I didn't understand that at the time. I'm like, what does he mean? He said he doesn't have time and now he's going to meditate more. And it took years for me to understand why he said that, or
Mhm.
what that even means. And over years, I have implemented more and more of being in the moment, enjoying the moment, like getting into a place of not trying to figure things out, but being more in a place of working out of intention and inspiration. And in order to do that, I need to do less of figuring it out, trying to make it work, and do more of chilling out, enjoying the moment, being there present, because those ultimately our goals and our results. And I'm not saying don't put any time into work. That's not what I'm saying. It's not like sit back and hope it will drop from the sky. I mean, that doesn't happen. Of course, you need to do things, but then from a perspective of being more relaxed, being more like taking care of yourself, better things come from that place versus the grinding culture that we are finding ourselves in, that is happening to a large scale on the corporate scale and even in the business environment in general, or in personal lives. Oh, children going to tons of activities and everybody's just running from one thing to the next thing. And ultimately in the process, you forget about why you're even doing all these things.
I think we could close this segment here with a quick story. I may have shared it before, but it's worth hearing again. There was a spiritual master out of India. His name was Kirpal Singh, brilliant, fully enlightened gentleman. And he was an accountant by trade. And once he had reached the fully enlightened level, he decided he better quit his accounting job and go out and become a spiritual teacher, which he did. Well, when he left his job, they had to hire 6 or 7 more people to replace him. You see, when we do prayer and meditation, when we really go into that loving space, we are so much faster at our work, you see. So then we don't feel like we have to run, because, imagine it took 6 or 7 people to replace this guy.
Right.
They had, because you think faster, right? You act faster. You come from a place in your heart. You're more loving and so on. So we are clearly, audience, we are sharing with you that prayer and meditation is one way for us to stop the running. Yeah.